All right. Hey, welcome everybody. We're going to be talking about something interesting today. I'm going solo, but something that I think is very important. We've been trying to figure out how to get agentic personalities into the SDR world. And what we've kind of been finding is that there's three different areas. There's the hot world that's been working really well. That's like the inbound stuff. So you're doing inbound leads, you got high volume, demo requests, whatever it might be. That's a home run. The next area is the warm area. Think like signal based selling. So this is where you see things like, people on your website, you're de-anonymizing them, and all of a sudden you've been trying to slack that over to your sales team and nothing's happening. So what do you do with it? What you do is you try to have a cloud employee follow up with that in some form or fashion, email or phone, right? That signal based concept's working pretty well. It's the outbound stuff, it's the cold stuff, it's the more personal, it's the enterprise stuff that hasn't been working quite as well. And so we've been kind of playing with a couple different companies trying to build what we've been referring to as a researcher cloud employee that could aid in a couple different areas, but definitely more on this side of that spectrum where you're talking about, I have an SDR team, but they're maybe wasting time doing research or doing different things. Could we put in an agentic personality there to help them? And the answer is yes. And today I wanted to talk about some of the things we've been doing to solve that problem. So let me jump into it. Time is always short. I set it up. This knocks it down just a little bit. Was looking for some of those stats. Yes, whether it's, some people say reps are spending 14% of their time on that research piece, trying to find some of the signals or some of the key data points about firmographic, demographic information. And reps are diving into CRM. I was talking with a client, a company the other day, and they have it all actually in CRM, they said, in this instance, but they have so many, add-ons onto that Salesforce contact page or account page that it actually is still pretty hard to find the necessary information and then bring that together in something that you could actually use in your reach out. That even in that instance, she was like, I don't even need to go external. I just need internally to be able to grab this information. So you're seeing people waste time. You're seeing a lot of reps spending time. And ultimately, the challenge we're trying to solve with this lead research cloud employee is what you're seeing on the screen. So that's the hypothesis. What if you find that rep who's a researcher, doesn't complain, doesn't 24 hours a day, and could actually be guided and coached so it walks through that specific process, internal or external information that you can assemble and then ultimately use in your reach out. So that's kind of where we went. We named him Dex. Man, I forget these names. I've been naming so many agents. Like, I really like the naming concept because it makes it more real to me. And there was a good story with Dex. I forgot. If you're interested in that, you'll have to hit me separately. But Dex is our researcher cloud employee. So let's go into a couple of the things he does. And then I want to see if I can walk you through a little bit of a demo of how that works. So to start, he is a cloud employee. Now, I get this question a lot. I wanted to just make sure I dive into it first. Gabe, what's the difference between a chatbot or specifically an AI agent and a cloud employee? And so I put a couple things up here, but while you read it, let me just hit a couple of points. What I'm often seeing, is obviously the chatbot just doesn't have as much intelligence. As you move up that spectrum, you're going to get more intelligence. With that said, specifically on the AI agent versus the cloud employee, think simplistic versus complex. Think deterministic versus autonomous. Again, AI agent more determined. If this, then that. Fairly simple, as I was saying. Again, a little more complex or autonomous on that side of the cloud employee. AI agents more task focused, very specific in what they do. Maybe just one thing, scrape a website. As you get more complex and job focused, that would be multiple tasks combined, you get more into a cloud employee. Again, slight difference there, but for us, a more complex AI agent is ultimately a cloud employee. So what does Dex do? Here's some of the stuff. So you can go externally and grab some of the signals. So think job change alerts, for example. Think anonymized website visitors and de-anonymizing those and then doing something. So you can capture some of that signal stuff. You can also, I've got a couple companies finding some real interesting data out there, looking for awards that maybe a certain type of company won and it's a little bit harder to find, or reviews on a review site. Can you kind of go out externally and find some of that stuff. But I gave that other example. You could also make sense of some of the internal stuff. If you've got that complex Salesforce instance, how do I kind of bring in some of those different add-ons into something that is digestible? And that digestible piece is something that I'm super interested to show you today, because I think that's where we're going. It's not just about delivering the data. It is about interacting with the data. Get excited. That'll be interesting. In addition to that, you can find some of the buying committee. So if we need to grab more people, Dex could certainly grab some of those additional people and throw them in that CRM report, something like that. It is important that he does connect to some of your different systems. So think of this as, again, like an agentic personality. So is it completely replacing the idea of a Zoom info? Not necessarily. It's going to go in and maybe find some of that, or it's going to go out on the web and search and then bring some of that back, or going to go into, this system or that system and bring it back for you. It's more like a personality than it is a tool. What is some of the benefits of Dex? Yes, I talked about it. It's the hours per week. So this isn't the full role of an SDR. This is the researching component. So you're saving time. You have a little higher pipeline, but when that saved time, you can ultimately get to more people, get to more meetings. And we are seeing that in a couple of the instances. And then, as always, we're trying to make this as cost efficient and secure and safe as possible. So here's the process that I'm seeing some people walk through, a handful of our clients here. So start with an inbound lead. So the easiest use case is that inbound lead, and you just run kind of an enrichment program. And that would be on top of some of the stuff you're maybe already doing, or if you want to go deeper. So let's say maybe you're already grabbing some information from name a tool. But if I wanted to go deeper on that and have Dex go out, let's go outbound here for a minute and find some of that tough to find stuff on the web. I'm going back to that awards or reviews type of stuff. That's harder to get, or maybe you didn't get it in the lead form. They certainly don't have it in one of these tools. That's a perfect place for that. Next, then CRM type of stuff, right? So we wanted to add maybe a few more people around this inbound lead that happened to come in, or maybe I've got a contact and I want to work him and one of his, C-level in this function or that function. So that can be an interesting add-on there. We can also dive deeper, look for duplicates, some of that stuff in CRM I talked a little bit about. This is what I'm going to show you here in just a second. But once I have that information, what do I do with it? Well, I can certainly throw it back into HubSpot or CRM and think of it like Dex is just inserting that information in that, so that when the rep comes in, I see it and I know about it. The on top of that concept is that interaction piece, right? So this is where I think it gets interesting. Once Dex grabs that info, how does he interact or let the rep know, hey, I found some new information on this person? Do we send an email? Do we put it into Slack and say, hey, I found some interesting information. Let me know if you have any questions about it. And all of a sudden you start that interaction back and forth with the rep. So it isn't just in the system. I can have a dialogue around it via a variety of channels about what the heck is actually going on with that contact. But it is important that it is in CRM so that we can ultimately find it. Okay, so here's just be one example, and this would be the standard example. So I went out there and I found some of that enrichment, or maybe I found another contact, and you're seeing here in Salesforce, I just throw that in, Dex throws it in, and you're seeing some of these things being enriched or information added that you maybe didn't have before. And that would be like your baseline component. I'm doubling down on enrichment or research, and I've given Dex a specific process. Go find rewards, or look in CRM, or grab job change alerts, or grab this, bring it in so that I have it into my CRM in a more structured manner. And maybe you just leave it at that. I think that's awesome, but that would be step one. Where I think it gets a little more funny is where you then start to interact with that cloud employee about what they found or what they know about the account. And I think in certain instances, a lot of reps need this type of interaction to better tailor their outreach. So I'm on the page here, and you'll have to be a little bit creative with me, because I'm going to give you one example, but then you might need to be able to visualize how that might work in other examples. So this is the page, Meet Dex. I talked about some of this stuff, what he does, but I'm going to pop down here to this chat type window. Now, imagine if that chat window was embedded somewhere. Maybe it's on your page, maybe it's in your CRM, maybe it is Slack, maybe the better place is Slack. The interaction layer, I think, becomes fairly important here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Dex just a couple questions. Let's see how he handles this. So I'm going to ask him a little bit about his role here. So Dex, where are you, buddy? Pop on in here. I'm going to say, hey, I got Gabe Larson. Let's say Gabe Larson is my prospect. And I'm going to say, who the heck is this guy? Okay. So now I've started to interact with Dex. Now, again, he's gone and he's assembled some of this information. We go to that interaction layer so that we can ultimately see, is that too small for you guys? Sorry. Yeah, let's make it a little bigger. Yes. There you go. Buckle up. I always like to give my cloud employees a little personality here. So he might have just a little bit of spice to him. Buckle up, Gabe. Gabe, okay, is the CRO at Signals. Cool. Basically leading the charge to swap humans for AI coworkers. Before this, he was CMO of Customer, took it to 1 billion exit with Meta. I remember that as stories from Inside Sales Gallup. Translation, he's seen it all and built a few empires. To mention bold moves and scaling with data in your outreach. I like that. Okay, so what I want to say then is, okay, I think that's impressive, but how do I not sound like every other SDR who's Googled him for 2 minutes? Again, I'm having an exchange with the cloud employee about what they know in preparation for me to ultimately reach out. Let's see what he says here. Okay, play to his personality. Gabe calls himself a wannabe consultant. Where did I put that? That is right. Numbers obsessed analyst, unapologetically. Loves bold moves and hates slow plays. Mentions scaling, growth, flipping the GTM. That's his love language. Personalized outreach idea. Gabe, I'm all about bold GTM experience. What's the wildest one you've tried lately? Okay, let me see what I got to do with that. I wonder if there are any fun angles to break the ice. Again, I'm just having a back and forth here, trying to kind of understand the prospect I'm potentially going to reach out to, but I'm not automating myself out of it. And that's one of the challenges when you're talking about a more personalized or that outbound motion. Sometimes it's harder to automate the whole thing, and maybe Dex can play a role as that kind of assistant. Okay, let's see what he says here. Oh, for sure. Gabe's into backyard wrestling with his kids, nicknamed the Speedy Gorilla, the 90s karaoke. Still thinks he can hoop like he's 19. Drop a cheeky 90 lyric or basketball reference and you'll stand out. Outreach idea, Gabe, if you've ever need a backup for Speedy Gorilla or a 90s karaoke partner, I'm your guy. Chat. Yeah, that might be a little too personal, Dex, but let's see. What about others in his network that I might want to know or that might be valuable here? And again, I'm just trying to think of ways to personalize or really reach out, and it's assembling the information from the systems. Think Utah GTM Mafia. Gabe's tight with some of these other people. You might name drop. Outreach idea. Gabe, your circle is basically the Silicon Slopes All-Star team. Okay, so that could be an interesting angle. I want to see if I can hit the signals, what signals maybe Dex has found on this person. Let me see what he pulls in on this thinking. Let's see. Gabe's actively hiring for an email marketing specialist, which seems to scream investment and outbound. That's a live buying signal if your product helps with that. Outreach. So he's always tying it back to maybe how you can bring in some of that, ultimately that outreach. And then maybe I'll ask one more question. Just how would you pitch him to see if we can kind of bring that to bear here? Let me see what he has to say. Skip the tool talk, pitch the teammate. He's big on AI coworker. This is too close to home, probably. I'm not pitching a tool, I'm pitching a teammate. Want to see how it works. So I think you get the concept there. So ultimately, look, I think obviously there's enrichment everywhere and there's nothing new 100% in that aspect. But this tool versus teammate concept, broadening your scope, getting maybe the information you want exactly. So I want you to do boom, boom, boom. I want you to research this. I want you to go external here. I want you to pull this signal there. I want you to go into CRM, knock it all out like that. Now you're in kind of a 7-step process that sometimes takes 15 minutes per account or per contact. And then you add on top of that some version of interaction. Again, could just throw it in the CRM, but ultimately, is it an email? Is it some chat interface where I can actually talk and debate, maybe get some ideas on how to approach that? I think you're going to see more people maybe move into that direction, because I do think that collaboration is important. That's a collaboration piece that I think a lot of SDRs or AEs are missing in their sales process. So again, some of the things we're starting to see, you get the time back. We're talking 10, 15 minutes, sometimes longer, just to understand it. A little more of that personalized outreach, because I think clean data can be a huge one. I had that in here somewhere. For the first time, I actually trust the data in Salesforce. That's 97% Dex, 3% miracles. I always like to try to get funny quotes from people, but ultimately you have a time saver. When time saver happens, I think you have more opportunities. So think about that. Think about a lead researcher, how it could potentially fit in your business. It's not always about eliminating everything. I do think there are some areas in AI SDR or SDRs where, maybe there is an elimination conversation. Augmentation also matters. And so wanted to make sure you're aware of that and some of the cool things we're seeing on researchers aiding sales and SDRs to see if they can sell more. So cool. Thought that'd be interesting for everybody today. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you have a fantastic day.